Feisty chess time, everyone. I've got black here paired with Valery 101448 on Lee Chess. All right, let's go for knight f6 against d4. And I haven't played a Benoni yet. My results aren't too great with the Benoni, but I do respect it. I want to get good at it, and I've studied it quite a bit. So here we go. We play the Modern Benoni. We're going to go g6, bishop g7. The idea here is queenside expansion if you can manage it. So bishop d3. Probably just castle next. He's probably figuring out whether to play f4 or not. Okay. Often in the Benoni, black wants to play a bishop to g4 and just willingly trade that off for the knight. Let's castle. So h3 prevents bishop g4. Now when I play a6, if white knows what he's doing, he will play a4 because b5 is the whole idea. Right. Okay. Now there's some crazy tactics on the e-file here. Let's just go rook e1, e8, I mean. Okay. Knight wants to come to e5. Okay, bishop f4. There's some lines where I can just leave this pawn hanging. For instance, if I play maybe knight h5 here, bishop takes, then I can go queen here, and I should be fine. I'm giving up the center, but I know there's lines that basically make that okay. I could also just play queen c7 here. That seems sensible. And then I'll get knight h4 in, knight h5 in next, before going with knight e5. I see a reason not to do that. I really don't want to recapture with the pawn and give white a big, strong central pass pawn. So I want to recapture with that bishop. My bishop and my knight on e5. Okay. Knight h5 to hit that bishop. And then we're sticking a knight onto d5. Sorry, onto e5. There's a lot of, and black is a little bit cramped, but there's a lot of latent energy in the position. It's sort of like the King's Indian. A lot of similarities to the King's Indian. But instead of a kingside attack, black usually goes for a queenside expansion. And you can often achieve that tactically, although I need to look at those tactics again. And black is not afraid of trading off this Benoni bishop, actually. There's even lines where rook takes e5 as an exchange sacrifice, but I'm not quite that wild about it. In the King's Indian, you want to hang on to that bishop in a lot of lines, but in the Benoni, you're willing to trade that bishop off. F5 is going to be a key push break against white here. In fact, if white goes f4 right now, I've got a bishop check, and then I'll probably push f5. Got to keep my eye on the c file. Queen and the rook both there. Okay. Yeah, I still want to recapture with this rook. Here comes f4. Alright, this gives me g3 for my knight. Let's just come back home. Okay, if I go knight g7, I should be able to support an f5 push. Right now, f5, this knight is too loose because I can't recapture with the g-pawn or the knight hangs. I could also think about queen b6, just trying to attack that weak pawn. I'm not developed at all. Actually, bishop d7, and can I get away with b5? With the knight on f6, I maybe could get away with b5. So d7, bishop d7 seems like a more flexible move here. It's important that white has moved his rook off the a file. I could maybe go rook to b8 and then just push b5. I wouldn't necessarily have to play my knight to f6. The reason I said knight to f6 would allow this is at the end of these trades on b5, I could take on e4 with the knight. Even if white wins a pawn over here, I'm going to win this pawn here. But the knight on f6 prevents me from doing my f5 push, which is thematic here. White also doesn't have, now that his rook is not on this file anymore, he doesn't have a5. So far I'm not down any material, which means this is a good Benoni for me. Actually, it might mean it's not a good Benoni. Some crazy Benoni games out there where exchanges are sacrificed pretty routinely. Pawns are given up free of charge, it seems. So white, you've got this big center, but what are you going to do with it? G4 looks like the most testing move, frankly. I'd probably have to go knight G7 instead of knight F6 in the case of G4. Because if knight F7, E5 comes, well, no, I'm still okay. I'm guarding against E5. So maybe knight F6 is the natural place for that knight. Then I would be threatening to push over here. It's not much of a threat, it's just an attempt to free my game. I suppose I also could just be pushing C4 at some point. Okay, this is what we've got. Where does our knight want to be? It looks like he doesn't have much of a future on G5, and now that on G7, and now that G4 has been played, F5. F5 doesn't look too appealing. But that is still a thematic move. This bishop tactics with the bishop here at the end would allow me wouldn't allow me to take here. Actually, I could take with the rook, couldn't I? Then there's F. That's unstable because there's G7, G6. Okay, I'm going to go knight G7. And if white wants to push F5 himself, so I can't push it, then he's really weakened this E5 square, and he won't be able to push E5 anytime soon. If he goes F5, oh, that is threatening F6 to trap the knight. Maybe I go rook E8 just to give my knight someplace to land. Okay. The general theme of this game seems to be baiting white into overextension. My king is looking a little safer. At least he's got a very airy king. The white king does. Mine's got a tighter pawn cover and a knight cover. No, rook e7 is no good. If f5. f5 is looking strong here. Not gonna lie. Maybe I just go rook e5 then. And my knight has a square. And how does he try to attack that rook with his knight? Okay, so with f5, I've got rook e5. And I'm nursing a nice time advantage here. I think the Benoni is rare enough at my level that not a lot of white players have a lot of experience dealing with it. So rook f8 doesn't look too bad if f5. Well, that's a little more cramped. Sticking the rook out there on e5 definitely seems feistier. I wonder if h5 is an idea for me. Okay. All right. So now's his moment to play this because he realizes, okay, now might be my moment to play this. We'll just bust this game open. I don't want to take because then he's hitting f7 and he's got these big two pawns in the center. Pushing e6 is not a threat here. So either rook b8 or immediately b5. Knight takes. Bishop takes, bishop takes. I gotta move that rook. I'm gonna go rook b8. Okay. Really begging me to take here. And threatening this fork. This cannot be good. My queenside expansion might not count for much here. Let's sack an exchange. We can grab a pawn at least. Now our queen is also defending f7. There we go. There's our exchange sacrifice in the Benoni. Not quite that intentional, but there it is nonetheless. Only if white chooses to take it. He could also take on d6. If he takes with a pawn on the d6, I can go queen d8, and then he's not threatening knight f6 anymore. And he's got some really fragile looking pawns. Okay, my opponent's getting into some pretty thick time trouble here. Alright, this does allow me to cover f6. Maybe white has seen something further. Oh, he's going to grab on c5, I suppose. Keep things complex as we can here. So it didn't end up being an exchange sack, but we're down a pawn. White's still got less of a safe king, and he's got these, his extra pawn is kind of not all that great. I'm gonna take. I have a check. I have a check, and I can grab up. I can't grab that pawn, but I do have a check for what that's worth. A check, and then maybe I can get my rook into d3. It's looking awfully wild, this position. His knight is on my bishop. There's also just f6. Is that any good? It's a tight spot. I'm going to give this check. This might be a big mistake. If he goes for f6 here, I've got another check. I need to do something about this bishop, though. Now I've got rook e3. Can I survive this? Let's complicate things. Go for rook e3. Okay, I'm gonna have to live with this. Inspiring words, I know. Oh, look, there's just one spot for my bishop here. f6 looks really strong now. Indeed. Knight e8, d7. Okay, I'm glad to see this. Fianchetto knight is not much fun here. My rook's not really threatening anything. No, it is, because I've got this as a defensive resource. Where's my king going? Let's not give up another pawn with check. Let's just operate on that principle. And now I can't take here, however. That's a good move. And I'm out of time. Yeah, I'm busted here, though. Just busted. So let's look at the final position in the analysis. Man, I'm losing a lot of rating points lately. I think I needed to give that pawn up with check. King f8. Yeah, but the computer hates this position for black. I'm busted here because if I take the pawn, obviously there's this. And I can block with the knight, which has contributed to my back rank problems. But he just takes, and then he's up a knight. Maybe taking with the knight first is better. So king to f8 is required. But then knight takes h7. It's just a free pawn, and black can carry on. White can carry on with stuff like this. That knight holds everything together. What am I to do? King e7. Rook c8. I can't take anywhere. Taking here is the best I've got, and I'm down the exchange, and still this knight is completely useless. This is better than the game for sure. I mean, I might have a chance to survive in a draw in this kind of time scramble. Okay. From the top, Benoni. Not for the faint of heart. Maybe not for the wise either. One of those live on the edge kind of openings. Probably the computer will say that white had the advantage all game. The computer loves white in the Benoni. Okay, I was happy here. White's got his big center built up. Bishop b7, big mistake. Go for c4. That allows us to get in. Well, what about this? Queen c5 check. Oops. Queen c5 check. And then we can get this in. That would have been kind of nice. Not nice enough, according to the computer. I'm wondering about that knight on g7. I've heard that called the knight's dumb square. Let's look at this c4 line a little bit more. It actually wants f5 here. Okay, the bishop has had to choose between staying on this diagonal or this diagonal. So if it goes to c2, if it goes to e2, then after the check, I can play this because the bishop's no longer watching that square. If it goes to c2, however, as the computer recommends, actually the computer recommends b1. If it stays on that diagonal, I still have f5, huh? He takes f5, queen c5 check, king h2, rook e3. It's the kind of Benoni activity. Can be nettlesome. Queen d1, knight g3. Just really hanging out in white's position there. Now white has a big advantage according to the computer, but this is a tough kind of position to navigate, I think, if you're a human. Probably after rook f3, knight takes f5, and that knight looks pretty good. And the white king doesn't look a whole lot better than the black king. This Benoni pawn actually makes black's king a lot safer because he can sit on this diagonal with not too many fears of checks. Knight e4, queen comes back here. So yeah, the computer really likes white. It just goes for rook c4. c6. Take f3. Oh, and then there's a fork. Black gets the exchange. But it's not enough in the Benoni. If you're down the exchange in the Benoni, you're usually winning. Queen g7. Yeah, the knight f6 is a big threat. But then white also has that idea. So the computer still likes white. You keep it up with the Benoni. I haven't played any Benoni games yet on this channel. It was an opening I was trying to learn about a year ago and to really employ. I wonder if the computer likes d takes e5 better here. I wonder what it thinks of rook takes e5 here. Well, it doesn't like it too much. The computer's pretty materialistic. AlphaZero might have a different way in on the position. Okay, this key moment where I've dropped the knight to g7. Knight f6 is better. Yeah, g7 is the dumb square here. The knight has all three of his advanced squares are just blocked by pawns, and he has no moves really right now. So this f5 idea ends up being a big threat. Well played by white here. Yeah, the check was the right move, but maybe I should have just played it sooner to at least put the clock pressure on white. Okay, well played, Valery Numbers. Thanks for watching, folks, and stay feisty.